Alright guys, just want to talk about tips and questions related to the Philippines. Somebody brought up yesterday about the sari-sari store, doesn't look like there's a lot in it. The answer to that is quite simply, there is no point. There's 3 fridges in there, for example, but you've got to bear in mind the cost of making ice water and stuff you sell at 1 peso. You've got a very limited budget, so there's no point in having excess refrigerators and stuff. You just get what you need. Also, the other thing you get in the Philippines is you do not recommend, well, I certainly do not recommend putting anything on show. And one of the things they did have in there up until recently, I wasn't aware it was in there, was quite a large, expensive TV, which has now been stolen. It's the first time we've had any security issues, and it's because it was on display. It was being watched by people coming up to the store, sitting there having a beer and watching the sports on it. Now, I'm not grumbling at people about doing it, but because quite simply I wasn't aware it was there, and if it was, I would have told them not to put it there. This is the reality here. When you often catch people stealing here in the Philippines, they will get angry with you for catching them. That's it. They think they have a right to steal from you because you have more money. That's it. Be aware of this mentality. So the reason we don't put too much into the store is it has its market value, generates enough income as it is, so we just leave it as it is. Also, it's more of a social thing for April's mother because she sees people on a daily basis, talking with people, got her own little business, and that's fundamentally the main reason behind it. We don't need a store. We don't need one at all. But ultimately, that's the questions related to the store. Yeah, the other thing about keep things to yourself. Try not to show too much wealth around because people will shoot you for a cell phone. It's happened quite a few times up in Banilad. One of April's cousins a few years back, a motorbike passenger grabbed her phone because she was stood outside a restaurant and dragged her up the road trying to get the phone out of her hand because she wouldn't let it go. So I hope that answers your questions why you don't show too much money out there. What else? What other questions have I got? Am I happy being back in Cebu? Yes. It's a little, like I said, it's a little bit strange because obviously April and the kids ain't here. But it's now set the wheels in motion to set this up regularly now, you see, because April's mother is now coming to Spain. April's mother's already asking me about when April comes back, is the kids coming with her? And ultimately now April's got her own goals set so that she can come backwards and forwards as and when she feels like it. Other question. Am I worried about my wife taking all the property and stuff we have here? I couldn't care less. There's the first thing. First thing is, as I mentioned before, when I got married, the marriage agreement we have is a bit more solid than a lot of relationships out there in the sense that we committed for a lifetime. So from that point of view, we have a different setup from what a lot of people experience in MGTOW. And I've been through the same stuff. I understand from the Western perspective, but a lot of people out there in the West are very, very different. Don't get me wrong, you will get gold diggers, you will get problems out there, but at the same time, my wife's not from that environment. My wife is a very dedicated, family-orientated woman. So it's not a bother to me whatsoever. Also adding to that, I've got 2 kids. So from that point of view, it's also a legacy thing. Now, I know some of this doesn't fit into MGTOW, but that's what I said. I sort of sit in with some of MGTOW because I understand some of the relationships issues that some people face. And as such, I recognize that sometimes when people want direction or whatever, a lot of it comes down to making the right decisions. I have spent a lot of time in the Philippines where I've spoken to people about bad women they're with. And in the sense that I'm not telling them, leave that woman or whatever. I've turned around and I'll just go, your wife seems a bit immature or whatever. And I know they don't listen. And that's, for me, that is my obligation in the sense that I'll quite happily say, well, I put it out. If a year later she decides to dump you in the US or whatever, don't complain about it. I did say, but at the same time, if I didn't say, you could then complain and say, Matt, why didn't you warn me? Well, I did. So from that point of view, I do understand it. I do see. I mean, if you're an expat out here, you recognise most of these problems straight away. You ask anybody who's been here, say, 10 years, or even 3 or 4 years, you see all the different things that are red flags and recognise them in people. And you're probably wondering what that rattle is. I'll actually show you. That's the heavy rain. Absolutely hammering down. So in answer to the question relating to my wife, no, I'm not worried about my wife whatsoever. We have a lifelong commitment. We're happily married. I was talking to John Parrish yesterday about it as well, because he's in a similar scenario where you can sit 24/7 with your partner and be content. A lot of people can't do that. But if you're in the right relationship, you can. And it's very hard. It's something you can't explain. It either works or it doesn't work. But also bear in mind, I've already been married now a decade. And we're still as happy as we were when we got married. If anything's changed, we're probably more content. Because obviously, over time, your boundaries drop a little bit. You become more relaxed, etc. But that's, like I said, that comes from being with the right person. And not everybody will find that right person. A lot of people may never find the person because they could be too guarded. But at the same time, I do recognise in the West, you've got to be sometimes. You've got to recognise that there's a lot of people out there that quite happily dig into your wallet, dig into your house, dig into whatever their assets they can get their hands on. And it's why a lot of guys I know will actually say, well, she changed. She's the woman she is now is not the woman I married, or whatever. That's why MGTOW exists. A lot of guys quite simply just said, call it a day, not interested anymore. But as somebody already mentioned, and I apologise I didn't put your name because I forgot it right now, because I'm sort of in this limbo mode at the moment where I'm half asleep most of the time, because I'm having 2 sleep periods. So I sort of sleep. I sleep in the afternoon, then get up again. And I get up about 2 to 4 in the morning. And then I'm up all day. And then I'll sleep at around 12 o'clock for a couple of hours. And then it's the same. But, yeah, as you mentioned, the women are different in the Philippines. And I would say they are. And that's why when somebody's asked me about children, do I know any women that wouldn't have any children or don't want children? The answer to that is, I've never met a woman in the Philippines who didn't want children. Because they are a strong Catholic nation. They do believe in this stuff. But at the same time, as I mentioned before, I worked for a guy that portrayed himself as being very religious, but it's the most corrupt person I've met. At the same time, I do find the majority of women, if they come from a good family, good background, and have had responsibility, i.e. had to look after somebody, whatever gives them a good grounding, so they understand the cost of things and the value of money, etc., you'll be off to a good start. Thanks for watching.